All right, y'all. Well, again, good morning. Welcome, everyone. You are joining us in the breakout room for Cultivating Dynamic Talent with a most excellent group of panelists. My name is Jenny Veltri, and I am the Northwest Washington STEM Director. So I actually serve the counties north of Snohomish, and also the co-director of the Connect Washington Northwest Regional Network, along with my counterpart, Angie Sievers, who leads the Snohomish STEM Network, and who you probably all know. The goals of this session are to learn more about those who have developed specific pathways to industry recognized credentials by partnering with education and other organizations, and to also simplify and identify places where businesses and education can go to for support in this type of process. In terms of housekeeping, we can ask questions in a couple of ways. Feel free to use the chat, or you can raise your hand and I'll go ahead and call on you too. Now at this point, I want to extend a very warm welcome to our panelists. Thank you so much for agreeing to jump in and chat about this important work. First, we have Angie Mason-Smith, who is currently the Core Plus project coordinator at the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, OSPI, but she is also soon to be the Senior Program Officer at Washington STEM, working specifically with career pathway initiatives. We also have Terry Mccorkle, who is the founder and CEO of Fish Cloud, which is a comprehensive fishing protection and training company. And then we also have Eric Pearson, who is the Northwest Washington Apprenticeship and Facility Manager at the Construction Industry Training Council of Washington. Welcome all of you. We're so thrilled to have you here.
Thanks, Danny.
So what we'll do is all of you in 2 minutes, maybe 3, please share about you, programs that you've worked with, and how you have worked to develop talent pipelines. Let's go ahead, since I introduced Eric last, let's start with Eric first this time.
Okay, like Jenny said, my name is Eric Pearson. I am the Northern Western Washington Apprenticeship and Facility Manager for Construction Industry Training Council of Washington. I'm here to pretty much talk about like our outreach programs and what we do to get mostly kids is what we kind of focus on in the coming out of high school, middle of high school kind of times. Here and there, we will go into like middle schools and that's kind of pointless, but we do it sometimes. Let's see, we are currently, we work with, a few pre-apprenticeship groups as well that we also get some talent from. With some of how the like laws and stuff are written, it's a really easy transition from a pre-apprenticeship to full apprenticeship. So that's very beneficial to the students that are trying to get into the trades. Essentially, I have personally worked for CITC now since 2010, so going on 12 years now, and full-time 3.5 or so. So I was a painter and I taught painting, and that was always interesting trying to get new talent in that trade, and now I get to try to find new talent in all the trades. So it's challenging, to be honest with you. And COVID changed things up a little bit the last few years. It really minimalized what we could do as far as going out into the community and going to trade shows or career fairs and stuff like that. We've done a lot of online, outreach stuff, not quite the same. Now we're kind of trying to get back into the, more in-person stuff, which, hopefully everything stays good and we get to keep doing that, from here on out. But that's about it. That's who I am and why I'm here.
Excellent, Eric. Thank you so much. Terry, why don't you share, please?
Great, thanks, Jenny. So I'm Terry Mccorkle. As mentioned, I work for a company called Fish Cloud. I'm the CEO and founder there. My background, I actually came out of being an ethical hacker for the military as well as for Fortune 500s, mostly in the Seattle area, Boeing, T-Mobile, places like that. What we focus on is bringing humans into cybersecurity and actually giving them tools to be better at protecting themselves. But what we've found is these huge opportunities with our partner, for example, 418, And what we're doing is we're building a community defense network in a way that we can give some of the licenses to folks so they can protect themselves. But the beauty of this is the data is pre-anonymized, so we can give this to students and teach them how to find threats on real threats that are coming off of people's machines, teach them how to be defenders, and really raise the bar, because today a lot of folks that are trying to get into the IT field or trying to get into security specifically, if they want to be in security, there's a lot of skill gap between getting the education and then getting the hands-on training that are needed to get the jobs. So we're finding we're able to shorten that and finding an 80% placement rate as security analysts, even in remote places. Some of our early programs were over in the Appalachian Mountains. And so we're excited to be working with our partners to bring new ways of training and educating people, giving them hands-on skills to get into cybersecurity fields, because we have close to 60,000 open positions in the US today. So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of things that can be learned, and we're helping to shorten that gap and make it easier for people. So thank you.
Excellent. Terry, I look forward to hearing more about how you're doing that. Angie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Excited to be here. I am currently the Core Plus project coordinator at OSPI, and I oversee the manufacturing, construction, aerospace, and maritime programs in the state. And so it is a unique program because it was really lifted by industry. Boeing was who kind of really started it. They created a curriculum and gifted it to OSPI. So now it's free for schools to start to create those pipelines for students in our K-12 system. And so my job has really been working with schools and programs and aligning to those competencies and industry needs. We've expanded into construction and maritime in the last 2 years as well. So those students who leave their high school programs can leave with industry recognized credentials and the competencies to kind of hit the floor running. So it is a unique program, newer to CTE. Love to see what could expand into pathways. There's been lots of conversations of how it's really this unique kind of the premier model for CTE programs. So what does it look like in a computer science, cybersecurity world as well, and how we can align those systems to get those kids those skills as they're learning them in their high school programs. Additionally, kids can get equivalencies in math, science, and English in their construction, maritime, and manufacturing aerospace programs. So it's an opportunity to meet graduation needs that are a little bit that they may not actually acquire in the traditional sense as well. So that's kind of one of those unique things. And what's great is we have industry at the table, helping really guide that work and hiring the kids. And so then continuously working now to gain knowledge and acceptance with industry for those industry recognized credentials. So kids can go and say, here's those skills that I've learned, here's where I'm at, and get that hopefully some preferred hiring as well.
I love that, Angie. Thank you. So what I'm hearing from all of you, which I think is really interesting, and I think echoes what other folks are saying in business, is that really some of the programming that you all have created has stemmed out of just the basic need for more I see all the head nods, yes, for more folks within your industries. So can you each talk about what strategies you have used or that you have seen that have worked well to grow your talent pipeline? Let's go ahead and start with Terry.
Great. So yeah, what I mentioned earlier, Kentucky. So I think that's a good example. One of the things that we're looking at is there are a lot of displaced workers that are out in the industries. They've been displaced for many different reasons with COVID and shutdowns. And in Kentucky, they were dealing with specifically the coal mines were being shut down. So there's a lot of displaced workers. Whole towns are basically losing their traditional sources of income. So what we found was a lot of these folks, they can be remote even if they're in a remote area, as long as they can have access to an internet connection, we can help train them and get them educated with hands-on skills that really bridge those gaps, and then introduce them to a new way of finding, because there's a lot of employers that are looking for those skill sets as well, but they don't necessarily have a direct pipeline there. So the employers are kind of stuck trying to figure out where these workers are out in the field, or they're competing with people who are making huge salaries, and a lot of these companies are smaller to mid-sized. They need help, but they don't necessarily have the people. So what we found is by giving the hands-on training and teaching these these students or retrainees to actually understand security analysis work and hunting work, they can then go into these managed service providers or mid-sized companies who need that skill set but can't necessarily afford somebody that's already an established veteran in the industry. So that's where we're really coming together and realizing that there are a lot of displaced workers that we can help. And it really requires a minimal amount of networking experience to start doing this type of work. But for the students, I mean, there is a big impact for them having the ability to do remote work and being able to make a very livable wage where they're at. So plus having a new career opportunity. So that's where we're finding some success is, there's a lot of people who need help, and we're very excited to be helping them. We're working with Joy out at Workforce Snohomish, and working with Edmonds Community College as well here locally. I gave you an example of how this works in other remote regions. So this is, we're excited to be here and excited to be connecting those pieces.
Fantastic, Terry. Wow, thank you. Eric, what have you seen work? Go ahead.
What's that?
No, keep going. Well, what have you seen work in the construction industry?
Well, I mean, we definitely saw a lot of the displaced workers, like you're talking about there when COVID first kicked off, and you saw who went back to work first. One of the first people that went back to work during that whole thing was construction workers. So a lot of people said, "Wow, I want to be in that," because they're actually still out there making money. But really, our biggest draw is probably from like I said earlier, going out and talking to kids in high schools. Stuff like that, being partnered with high schools and school systems that do pre-apprenticeships, so that we kind of do have like a pipeline, what you're talking about there, from straight from high school to the trades and to trade school. And we have the advantage of being something that the employer pays for. The students, it's nothing out of pocket for them. So when they get out of school, they are going to make like you say, a living wage, a very good living wage, and owe nothing. So that really is a draw. And you can tell that it's not getting talked about enough in schools. When you do go to like career fairs and stuff like that, the kids just look at you like, wow, I've never heard of this. I can get paid to go to school and owe nothing, and their heads explode a little bit. And so that's really what works best for us is that sort of thing. We also work with organizations like ANEW. I don't know if everybody is familiar with them, but that's they take underprivileged groups and minorities and people that want to turn their lives around, and put them through a boot camp, get them ready for construction. When they're done with that, they are essentially been through a pre-apprenticeship program, so they can direct enter right into our program, right into the union's program, wherever they want to go. They're pretty good. So that's also another pipeline that we use as far as getting new talent into our program. That's about it. I mean, those are really the things. The rest is really just guys off the street that did a office job for the first 20 years of their life and realized this is not what I want to do, and they're changing it up and trying to go for electrician or a plumber or something that makes a lot of money. So those are the other things we see.
Thanks, Eric. Angie, what about you? What have you seen from more of a holistic standpoint? In terms of strategies that have worked well to grow a talent type of pipeline?
Yeah, I think one of the things is getting. Everything both Terry and Eric said, I was sitting here shaking my head saying yes, 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 more of that. We we've leaned on a lot of those strategies as well. Another thing is educator and counselor externship. So bringing our counselors and educators to industry to experience some of the different careers in it. As we know, those are oftentimes gatekeepers for our kids. And so, you know, when a lot of our counselors, traditional background is they went to college, they did 4 years, it's what they know, that's what they guide kids to. And so bringing those counselors and teachers into industry to see, like, to break down some of those barriers and perceptions, right? Then they can really be an advocate for those students in different ways, right? And really breaking down those perceptions of what trade-based careers are, and exactly like Eric said, how they can lead to, you know, living wage jobs right off the bat, you know, and can lead to additional pathways and opportunities with those skills. The other thing that we really have been focusing on is when we talk about Core Plus, is it being the core piece being transferable skills among industry sectors. So precision measurement, super important in manufacturing, also really important in construction. They might look a little different, right? But those skills you're learning could lead to pathways in a variety of careers, so that when something different in your life happens, like a pandemic, right? You have gained skills that allow you to pivot and re-enter in different ways. And so really identifying what those competencies and what those transferable skills are, so that kids don't just leave a class saying, hey, what'd you do in your aerospace class? I built a wing. Cool. It is cool. And what skills did you learn when you did that, so that you can articulate those in a hiring process? So I think that's another important piece that we've really worked on.
Yeah, thank you for that, Angie. Coming from the Northwest Educational Service District, I can say that we are having lots of conversations about how to talk with our teachers about bringing that kind of information into the classroom, like, and how could you actually use this in a potential career? You know, making those connections on a daily basis is so important for our students to realize and understand why they're learning a lot of the things that they are. And so, and that being said, my next question to you all is it really, you know, part of this panel is to sort of demystify how we can start to partner and make connections with education and or other organizations and industry to fuel these ways to sort of cultivate our talent. So could you answer for me this? How have partnerships and collaboration played a role in building your talent pool? Let's go ahead and let's start with this time, Angie. I know with Core Plus, that's been sort of such a foundational piece to that program.
Yeah, that is the foundation of the program, and forcing education to look at things differently and do things differently. I know sitting in the OSPI building right now, right? I know the barriers that can bring at times. And so leaning on the fact that this is an industry-driven initiative and allow those ideas to really flourish and spark. Oftentimes we want the same things, we just speak different language. So how do we bring the collective together to really work on how we support that, you know, the broader system? I think the other thing that's important, and we need to do a lot better of, is aligning all these systems in this great work. Because oftentimes I think for schools and districts, all of it is super confusing, because it's like, well, I could do Core Plus, or do I do a new, or do I do all of these different programs? When the reality is construction is construction. Those skills are those skills where we want to get those people into industry. So how do we bring those together and show that, and show the teacher that look, you can use your new curriculum, you can use those supports, you can layer on the Core Plus certificate, and those kids get both, right? And you're creating those different opportunities, but we got to get in the room together to have those conversations to be able to do it. So I think that piece is kind of that really important piece of, yes, we need to just continue to partner and remember the end game and the goals, and be able to do those things a little bit better.
Thanks, Angie. What about you, Terry? How have you, it sounds like you're doing some amazing things. How have you gotten this rolling with partnerships?
So for us, we're a security company, but I really wanted to be focused on community and making sure that people would be enabled. So our partnerships, for example, where we're able to share technology and share the data so that the students can be trained in real time. That's some of the strong partnerships there. We're also finding really strong partnerships at state level and at community colleges as well as workforce programs, because there's a lot of, I think a lot of it's an education opportunity to let people know, hey, there are opportunities. And even like Eric, you were mentioning construction, and Angie was mentioning various programs where there's a lot of ways that these industries are changing too. So part of my experience was in digital transformation, and like a construction company that discovers how to use their data to be more efficient and track their projects better and streamline that, there's opportunities there as well. So I think the partnerships really allow us to open our minds as far as, how do these different industries intertwine, and how can we help people understand this is a starting point and you can branch into so many different opportunities from there. That I think is, we live in a world where that is much more possible, and younger people don't necessarily see that, and a lot of folks that have been in one career channel their whole life don't see that either. So I think the partnerships allow us to really start expanding how people think about their career and the career path, and realize they can leverage past experience to bring into their new fields. And that type of, and for cybersecurity, it addresses everybody, right? So cybersecurity is touching every company out there. So there's a lot of ways we can work together to help promote different, there's cybersecurity needs across the field. So however we can partner with organizations to make that available to people, that's where we're at.
Thank you, Terry. Eric, how have you partnered with others in order to get to reach out to, and you've actually already mentioned a number of times, but if you would go ahead and sort of expound on that just a bit.
Sure. Yeah. Just I don't know. Probably the benefits mostly are that when you're doing like a pre-apprenticeship class or something of that nature in a high school, it's less work for us to like expose them because they're already being exposed in the class. And then so like our part is just to kind of let them know, hey, this is the next step. If you like this, and that really makes our job a lot easier, as opposed to, going in and, it's all new to them. If they've been in a pre-apprenticeship class in, Mount Lake Terrace or Snow Isle or something like that, then they know exactly, not maybe exactly, but they have a really good idea of what they're getting into, which is nice. It's not, not blindsiding them, and, and plus they have some skills to take with them. So that's, very nice. Same thing with the new, same, they've been put through a boot camp. They have a pretty good idea of what's gonna kind of be their life after that if they're going to continue with construction. So, again, we're not breaking them in or like, all of a sudden, surprising them with something, which that's beneficial. They come in and they know they want to do that, which is, like we talked in the thing previous, retention is key. So, we want to get them, but we want to keep them too. So somebody who has an idea of what they're getting into, they're not going to be, surprised and want to get out. So, that's where I think I see the most benefit for, joining with, working with our partners anyways. The people coming into the program that is what they've chosen. It's not a, dad made me do it or mom made me do it. It's something they chose. So, they stick with it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Eric. And I want to say too, now we're getting close on time. So in 1 minute, what we'll do is I'll give you about a minute for kind of closing remarks. But I also want to say too, if there are businesses and educational partners listening and out there, the Snohomish STEM Network, as well as the Career Connect Washington Network, is the reason we exist, is to connect and be a catalyst for these kinds of partnerships. So, if this is sounding really interesting and you're really interested in developing this kind of pipeline for your talent. That's something that we are also interested in partnering with you to help with. So after this, the business resiliency event today, everyone will be receiving a kind of a one-pager type handout with resources on that. And so the contact information for the Snohomish STEM Network and the Career Connect Washington Network will be on there for all of you to access and to reach out if this is something that's sounding interesting to you. So with that being said, Angie, Terry, and Eric, any last minute sort of comments that you want to say before we move on to the next session?
Probably want to reiterate that, you know, we need to get kids interested in this stuff. It's probably the most important thing. The graying of the workforce is a real thing. I'm not going back out into the field. I know, you know, most of the guys that in my position are not also going back out into the field. So we need that to, you know, really recharge our workforce, at least in construction. So very important.
I think, Eric, that's a really good point. I actually have 5 children, and I see the struggles they have are different than what I grew up with. And a lot of it is they don't necessarily know where to look for those opportunities. So that's really important. I agree. My platform has always been, we need to be better at understanding that security impacts every business, whether they're small, large, you know, whether they're in construction or whether they're building an airplane. And so it's important for every organization to look at that. We're focused on building the next generation of cyber analysts and people who look at it as more of a community defense and recognizing that we're all in this together as a community, right? So security information should be shared and we should be working together. So that's where we're coming from. Happy to work with any partners who, you know, find that interesting. And like I said, we're working with community colleges focused primarily on retraining, but there's also opportunities for people just coming out of school. So yeah, if you know anybody, you know, send them to Joy over at Workforce Snohomish, or they can reach out to us. Just happy to be here to help everybody. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, Terry and Eric and Angie. With that, I'm going to wrap us up because we are moving to our next session. So again, thank you to our panelists and thank you to all of you who have attended.